The Big 12 is intent on expanding. It has to, but the wish list doesn't exactly include Duke. Here's who that does include. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Today, let's go over Duke to the Big 12 is probably not going to happen. Here's who could come to the conference, as well as Iowa State will kill Illinois in the Sweet 16 tonight, and BYU is going through a weird football season holder ticket deal. In the Duke conversation, the Big 12 currently has to look at which ACC teams will be the most valuable to expand with. And if you're anything like me, you don't want to be an orphanage. You want to be a powerful brand that only takes expansion properties that are going to help you moving forward. And Duke isn't exactly one of those. We heard from Tim Montemayor, a former radio host in Salt Lake City, said that Duke, the Big 12 is eyeing Duke and Gonzaga in basketball to have those two properties, but basketball doesn't push the needle, football does. And if you know anything about the ACC, you've already heard that Clemson and FSU are going to leave. And when they leave, that thing's going to fall apart. And when it falls apart, what the Big 12 has to do is pick up the scraps to try to create a power conference. Here's the reason that Duke is not in that power conference. In the last decade or so, according to Nielsen, Duke is one of the least valuable teams in the ACC from a TV viewership standpoint. Now, I'm going to give you this. In 2023, last year, the most recent year, when you look at TV numbers and estimates on what Duke's athletic budget and football profits specifically should be, Duke is in good shape. Duke at least was in good shape last year because they were good at football. The better you are, the more you win. Of the top 32 teams in viewership numbers last season, 25 of them had winning records. 7 teams that didn't are representations of power brands that get viewers no matter what, but the 25 show that if you win, you get more eyeballs. Clemson, a decade ago, 15 years ago actually, was less valuable in football than Bowling Green. Then they won and got more eyeballs. Duke's one-off year of good TV viewership is not going to carry them as a power brand into the Big 12. Instead, this conference is looking for a team that has had better viewership over the course of the last decade. A team like Louisville, a team like Virginia Tech, or North Carolina, or NC State, or Pitt. All teams that had better viewership than Duke. Heck, even Virginia in the last decade has averaged better numbers than Duke and Georgia Tech and Syracuse. That is what sets you apart in this conversation is TV viewership. Why? Because the TV companies are the ones that pay for you to have whatever revenue you have in college football. The Big 12 is looking for teams that can push the needle in that category. Also, in the last decade or so, Duke is only ahead of Wake Forest out of the ACC. And to be honest with you, out of the teams at the bottom, Boston College, Syracuse, Wake Forest, the Big 12 doesn't want you. I would like to think, and Brett Yormark would like to think, that this league has leverage, at least leverage enough to keep Duke out of the conversation for now. Here's something very important I want to note here. If you're a Duke listener, if you're a Duke fan and you stumble upon this, I think having Duke in this conference at some point in time is not a bad thing. I'm not anti-Duke. I don't think Duke is the end of the world and something that would hurt the Big 12 ultimately. I don't believe adding Duke is the death of this conference in the way that adding Cal and Stanford and SMU will be the death of the ACC. However, my wish list and the actual Big 12 wish list doesn't have Duke at the top. Instead, you have NC State, who's a top 5 ACC team when you exclude Florida State and Clemson, the two properties leaving, in TV viewership numbers, or a North Carolina or a Virginia Tech, who also fall in that category over the last decade. That's who you want. You want value. Here's a really good independent piece. This was written in 2021, so it's 3 years old now. And that is outdated when we talk TV numbers. But I still want to give this to you because I think that independent reporter Zach Miller makes some really good points here. He takes data, whichever you want, from home attendance to market size or market share, valuation from 2019, 5 years ago, and social media following, and jumbles all up into one big bag and says, in 2021, here is how value valuable everybody was. And this hasn't changed too much in the last 3 seasons based on what we've already seen from valuations from the College Football Playoff Committee as of 2 weeks ago. Duke was rated 67th in the country. That is just ahead of Vanderbilt, Memphis, Houston, Cincinnati, and Houston and Cincinnati have only gotten more valuable because of their move to the Big 12. That's not good. And the Big 12 is not in a position where if the ACC falls apart, they want to add the equivalent of Houston or Cincinnati. The Big 12 already has Houston and Cincinnati. Why get teams that are at that same level? They have to be profitable. Wherever the Big 12 goes, those teams have to be profitable. In the same vein, like Baylor and Kansas and Colorado at the time didn't rate well. But in the meantime, Baylor has won a Sugar Bowl at a Big 12 championship, and Colorado has hired Deion Sanders as its head coach, and Kansas is winning. And I already told you that wins equate to viewership. The thing with Duke is they did win a bit last year, and then their coach left. And based on what they've done in the last decade, they're not going to carry TV numbers. NC State was 42nd in this independent reporting from Miller. Again, Duke was 67th. I bring up NC State because they are a better brand than Duke over the last 10 years. Miami on the list was at 24th, them being a top 25 team in brand, in prowess, and being on the table. Virginia Tech also in the top 25. Those are the targets for the Big 12. Duke, I'm not saying you completely suck, and I'm not saying that you have to die in realignment like Washington State and Oregon State did. I am effectively saying that for Syracuse, and I'm saying that for Boston College, and I'm saying that for Wake Forest, because those programs don't have the big moneymaker to lean on here. You could argue that Syracuse did with basketball, but that's gone away. That tradition isn't exactly there right now, and basketball is not going to push the needle. And for Duke, it's kind of the same. Basketball is not going to push the needle, but maybe your all-time record under one head coach, by the way, is good enough to get you into a power conference in expansion. I just don't, if the Big 12, I truly believe this is what it'll be, if the Big 12 moves 20 teams, Duke is not in that list of 4 the conference wants to add. It's not Gonzaga and Duke. So whatever sources are out there saying that, whatever talking heads are out there saying that, I just don't think they're doing the math. There's some pretty simple addition here. It's pretty simple to say this number, this TV viewership number, this amount of money is bigger than the other. And when Duke is on the short end of that stick, they're not a target for the Big 12 right now. I can't in my brain believe that. So, Duke, I hope the best for you. If you end up with the Big 12 somewhere down the road when each league goes to 25, I won't be upset. Let's create the best basketball conference in America. But first, I'm looking at football. I'm looking to push the needle. I'm looking to make more money and stay alive, as should you. Speaking of staying alive, let's survive in advance. Iowa State will kill Illinois in the Sweet 16 tonight on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Nissan. Nissan's what I drive. If you want to be like me, drive a Nissan. I have a Maxima parked right outside of my house right now. And all March long, Nissan is a sponsor of Locked On's Nissan SUVs, but as basketball teams. The NC State Wolfpack are this week's Nissan Rogue. The team absolutely surprises all with a powerful performance in the first 2 games in the tournament. Wins over Texas Tech, and Jack Golke and Oakland have set them to play Marquette in the Sweet 16. They say, win life, go rogue, and that's exactly what the Golden Grizzlies couldn't do, but the NC State Wolfpack did. Sorry, Golden Grizzlies. Right now, the Nissan Rogue is the same thing. They're endearing. That is the car that you drive when you need that upset. You think like, I like a Nissan Maxima, but what about the Rogue? Can we try it out? You end up trying it out, and it goes to the Sweet 16. Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada. Go find your next big adventure at shopnissanusa.com. That is shopnissanusa.com. Today's show is also brought to you by Better Together. Better Together is where I go to have fun. Better Together is the first cooperative daily fantasy application. Offer a familiar experience to existing DFS players with a social twist. You can play with a friend, with a teammate, so you don't have to necessarily pay as much attention as you did, and it's less stressful, and you have a better chance at winning than you do going at it alone. The team, in a way to stay connected with friends when gone are the days of watching sports together in person. Put your group chat to the test and prove yours is the best. My experience with Better Together has been so smooth. I downloaded the app. The app was easy. I used promo code Locked On. And right now, download Better Together from the App Store. Sign up using promo code Locked On, and you get a chance to win your share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Remember that code, Locked On, LOCKEDON, because winning alone is fun, but it is better together. That is better together. Use code Locked On. Iowa State's going to beat Illinois in the Sweet 16. Iowa State is an Elite Eight program. Iowa State's a Final Four program, and I have stats to back it up. This is going to be a game tonight where, all eyes should be on this one in the late night slot. Why do we have to play all these late? I don't know. But all eyes should be on Taman Lipsey and company as the number 31 offense of Iowa State, the number 5 offense of Illinois, the number 1 defense of Iowa State, which is crazy, and number 65 defense of Illinois meet one another. If you're keeping score at home, add those numbers up. Iowa State's offense and defense combined, according to shot quality, 32nd in the country. Illinois, their offensive rank, their defensive rank combined 70th right now. So that's where those two teams are sitting. Iowa State's defense is the best in the nation analytically. Illinois' defense is not 65th in the country against an Iowa State offense that, by the way, is twice as good as that. Here's where things go right for Iowa State. They have a better offense than Illinois does a defense, which is saying a lot because we haven't talked too much about how Iowa State's offense has fared so far this season. Then, according to the adjusted shot quality rating, Illinois' offense of 5, you're like, oh, the 5th best offense in the country. That's really good. And yeah, it is. But you know what sucks for Dane Danger and company? Iowa State's number 1 rated defense in the nation. That will be the difference in this contest. In looking at how these two teams stack up, rim and 3 rate, for Iowa State defensively, they are, as we sit, 80th in the country. Illinois is 83rd. I look at rim and 3 rate more so because that is a telling statistic for how good your offense actually is. That analytic to me gives me more than almost any other offensively, and Illinois is not the best there at 83. Iowa State on defense at 80 means there are holes there for Illinois to expose. Shot selection. This is where Iowa State will be at a disadvantage. Illinois is 39th. Defending, creating tough shots, Iowa State is 80th. That's the defense that's behind the offense. Spacing, defensive spacing for Iowa State, 343 in the nation. For Illinois, 60. So what you're saying right now is that Iowa State has a lot less of a chance? Well, not exactly, because the offense of Iowa State has a ton of opportunities to expose Illinois. And the reason I believe they will, more than maybe anything else, is because Iowa State already got the bad game out of the system. They didn't play very good offense against Washington State, namely in the first half, yet still won that game. I'll take you back to the Pitt game, 59-41 last year. Iowa State was upset in round 1, the round of 64, as the number 1 defensive team in the country. If you can't have offense, if you can't score at all, you're going to lose. Well, this year, they had their bad offensive performance and still won the game. I already told you Iowa State has the number 31 offense in America. Illinois, the 65th best defense. For Iowa State, what they can do is space the floor really well. And where they're even better is shot making. According to shot quality, when Iowa State gets a shot, where their percentage of making that shot is above 50%, they are 141st in the country at making that shot. That's kind of confusing, right? Illinois, for their opponents, when they give up shots, they give up at a rate 279th in the country of their opponent making it. That's a lot of jargon going on right now. But what I can deduce from that is that Iowa State's offense makes a whole lot more shots than Illinois is able to guard. And that's, again, saying a lot about an Iowa State offense that has not been elite this season. Analytically, Iowa State should win this game. According to shot quality, the final score should be Iowa State 75, Illinois 73. That is a half point better than what Las Vegas has this at Iowa State as a 1.5 point favorite. The Cyclones, TJ Otzelberger, a tougher schedule this year in conference play against Big 12 conference opponents. And I just think there comes a point where this league shows that it is the best in the country as the top teams in the conference compete their way to the Final Four. Houston and Iowa State are still my two picks to go to the national championship. I think that's what's going to happen this year. And for that to happen, Iowa State has to beat Illinois. Cyclones get it done. Final score prediction from me. Defense trumps all. What's the old saying? What's the classic saying? Defense wins championships. Iowa State, 68. Illinois, 61. Cyclones bury some free throws to win it in the very end. Take your under. I think this game goes under 130 overall. And to the Elite Eight, the Cyclones go before Houston gets to play on Friday. This is going to be a fun one, though. Illinois plays a fun pace, a fun style. This is a movable object against an unstoppable object and a movable force, or an unstoppable force, a movable object, whatever it is. Iowa State's defense against Illinois' offense, and I'm excited to watch it. Just like I'm excited to tell you about, am I? BYU is changing their ticket stuff up. Let's talk about this. This is an interesting thing on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Amazon Fire TV is where I go to actually watch Locked On. If I think, man, I want to watch my show back today, I feel like that's kind of good, I go to Amazon Fire TV, because Fire TV right now is your sports destination. Amazon.com/Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for Locked On Podcast and for Locked On Big 12. They recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On with most of the big league pros, college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive into the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date with the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this one. To learn more, visit Amazon.com/Locked On Fire TV. That is Amazon.com/Locked On Fire TV. You can learn more there. Again, watch Locked On in a whole new way at Amazon.com/Locked On Fire TV. BYU Cougar faithful are going to have to get used to this. A brand new way the football program will seat its season ticket holders going into next season. So I saw some stink on this on Twitter and thought, I wonder if where there's smoke, there's fire, and people should actually be mad. And welcome to the land of capitalism. So basically, BYU season ticket holders, if you've had the same spot for 100 years, for 75 years, your great-great-grandpa's old seat in Lavelle Edwards Stadium, that thing is gone away. It is somebody else's, which according to one BYU source told me that BYU's ticket prices have been low enough recently, especially compared to the market value, that doing this isn't necessarily crazy. It came a point where capitalism kicks in and you have to up the ticket prices. And the best way to do that was to redraw, to have a lottery, to have we know you've had this seat for a really long time, but we're going to have to charge more for this seat and move you somewhere else, season ticket holder. So I asked BYU fans, and I polled them, and this is what they said on the ticket situation right now. Nate Slack says, in the past, your season tickets from the previous year were locked. You could renew in the same spot without any question. So my spot has always been in section 208, and I sit in the end zone with a bunch of my buddies, and we all watch the game together. We've been season ticket holders for 10 years. He didn't say that. I'm saying that hypothetically. He continues, though, a lot of people took advantage of their grandparents sitting in the same spot for 50 years, inherited their spot each year. BYU decided to remove that auto renewal option and assign fans a date or time to renew tickets based off how much they donate to BYU's donor group. Some people have been really upset, but people who donate more money are now being prioritized over a family whose grandpa started buying tickets in 1974. That's a great way to explain it. And again, the word I go back to is that evil C word, capitalism. There is tradition in college sports. There is an immense amount of tradition at BYU. I've seen it myself, and I believe that that is one of the places that is the most underrated campuses, underrated atmospheres in all of college football. The tough thing is, what do you do when somebody has been in that same spot since 1988, and now there's just not a way to financially, especially in the Big 12, where now you have to put your big boy pants on to financially keep up with allowing that person to sit in the same spot. I work for the Savannah Bananas, and our whole company focus is being fans first. Like money second, fans first. What can we do that is relentlessly resourceful, and we're putting other people first? And that there's a crossroads with that sometimes. And it seems like for BYU, there's a crossroads here. I'm assuming no one did this joyfully. Nobody's excited to kick out grandpa from his season ticket seats. That sucks. Another one, Jordan Hall says, my dad has the same seats since the early 90s. It's now cheaper to go to multiple away games, pay for the away tickets as well as hotel and flights, and it'll cost the same as his price for the season tickets every year. They're betraying their longtime fan base. And that seems to be the rhetoric from most BYU fans. This feels like a betrayal of the fan base. It's tough to say that because tradition means a lot and continuity means a lot, and giving your all to that guy who sat there means a lot. But you know it, and I know it. If somebody else wants to pay $1 million for that seat, that's who the seat's going to go to, because that's the world of college sports and the world in general that we live in. And I get it. The company I work for right now, Fans First, I went to a private Christian, a private faith-based university. The goal was to be as conducive as possible to the guy who's had the same seat since the early 90s. But I just don't know. It's tough to be mad because, buddy, if somebody came to you and said, hey, I'll give you, $2 million for your season tickets. All right. Yeah, I might have to consider that. So the last one I'll read here from David says, you like football seats you've had for the last 30 years? Too bad. BYU wants more money for your seats, and there are plenty of people who will pay more. And that's it. And I wish, part of me, again, as somebody who's worked in organizations that are so fan-oriented, I wish I could come to you and say, this is a crisis that BYU is in the wrong for, but it's tough. It is tough to justify letting go of money as a big boy program. They've been doing this at legitimate power programs across the country for years, or at least one time where they said, hey, all you alumni, all you old season ticket holders, we have to kick you out because we actually want to be good right now. Like, I want to go find the Clemson fan that was there watching games as a season ticket holder in 2004 when nobody else was showing up, and then see them today where they go, yeah, I got booted out of my season ticket seats in 2013 because we were so good. That happens everywhere. It's a sign, congratulations, of you becoming an even more legitimate sports program, an even more legitimate football team. And I hate it. Can I blame them? That's where they're doing what everybody else has to do, what they have to do. So BYU, I'm sure not having a lot of fun doing it. But I hope they're not laughing in your face at the very least. Tomorrow, let's talk Iowa State and Illinois. Got some banana ball games going on too. If you're not following me on social media, I'm posting a lot about Savannah Bananas and Party Animals Baseball, Banana Ball. This has been and always will be. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. And thanks for making it the #1 Big 12 podcast. It means a lot to me. I put a lot of effort into this. Record it like midnight every night because of my schedule. Isn't that crazy? This has been and always will be. Locked On. Thanks again for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.